Aloha and welcome to Wind in Your Hair. Guaranteed no BS, real breakthroughs, raw truth on mindset, love, sex, purpose, and so much more. This is about getting wind in your hair, getting unstuck, being free, and stepping fully into who you were meant to be, starting right now. Aloha and welcome to Wind in Your Hair. I'm Anna, your host. And today, my guest is a seasoned wealth advisor, entrepreneur, a Reiki master, and a philanthropist. So I'm super excited to get into this and talk about finances and wealth from a totally different perspective than I've ever heard before. So welcome, Christopher Mackin. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Anna. Such a pleasure.
Okay, so tell us more about yourself.
Well, I've spent my entire career in the wealth management space, so finance, supporting people in helping them make smart decisions about their money. And throughout that process, building a significant amount of success and wealth, as most people define it, I realized that there was a lot that I was missing out on and a lot that I didn't know and understand, particularly around the realm of like energy work and consciousness. So as I started to have my experience unfold and go deeper down the rabbit hole of retreats and masterminds and inner work, I felt the call to really incorporate those practices into my work that I do on a daily basis.
So this is interesting. You're literally combining wealth and energy practices together.
Yes.
Wow. So that's new. So for anybody who's listening and you're kind of like, think maybe some of this is woo-woo. I remember growing up in a Christian church. We never spoke about energy, vibrations, manifestation, none of that. And since I've been set free from living in this box of conservative Christianity, which, don't get me wrong, I have my faith, I love God, but I'm now realizing how magical this world really is and how manifestation works, how energy is real, vibrations are real. It's wild. Like sometimes it gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, well, when you look at an atom itself is 99% energy and 1% matter, and we're made up of atoms. Realistically, one could say that we are 99% energy and 1% matter. So if our awareness is all focused on our matter, our physical, but we are 3D, none focused on the energy, we're missing out on 99% of our reality. That's really like when you think about wealth as spelled in its traditional sense, it's material abundance, right? Like the physical material accumulation of things, assets. My focus on wealth is, I spell wealth W-E-L-L-T-H. And the way that comes through for me is like really a holistic state of abundance that's characterized by like purposeful creation, balanced being, conscious connection to community, nature, and practice like giving, right? Generously and aligned with your values.
Why did you spell wealth that way? Is it an acronym?
Well, if you look at the wealth in a dictionary, it's spelled out actually W-E-L-L-T-H. And there was a book that I read several years ago. The author was Jason Watchobe. He started Mind Body Green. And the book was called Wealth. So I picked it up and I read through it, and it was all around like the physical health and spiritual health, nothing relating to financial health and wellness. When I think about, obviously my world and everyday practice is focused on talking to people about money. So when I read this book and I see all of the experience that people have with money and how that often limits them or hurts their relationships or a slew of things, to have a book like that not talk about wealth, right? In the spiritual communities. And, I often find that wealth and money is like this sticky thing that no one really wants to talk about or address. But when we look at it from an aspect of being a tool, right, and establish a connection within a relationship, we can use it to help us create the things that we're meant to manifest in this world.
I love that. And a few years ago, I came across the idea also of that wealth is a tool, money's a tool. Mm-hmm. Whereas before, I looked at it so differently. I had a very unhealthy mindset when it came to money, especially being married. And this idea that whatever was dealt with you, those were the cards. You just had to accept them, be thankful for what you had. If you wanted more, you were greedy or selfish or shallow. And once I got divorced and I started to heal all these different areas of my life with money, like the 7 pillars I talk about, or finances, your professional life, your sexual life, your relationships, your emotional, mental state, your physical life. I started to really focus in on these different areas and heal my attitude, my mindset towards money. And it's like this whole new world. And I started teaching my children this, that money is just a tool to get shit done. That's it. It's not bad. And if you're a generous person, when you get money, you're going to be more generous. If you're not a generous person and you get money, it's just going to bring out the worst in you, right? But what you said earlier, why do you think so many people have a hard time talking about money? And why do you think it's such a area of friction in relationships?
Great question. So it not only is an area of friction in relationships, it's one of the leading causes of divorce. I think over half of divorces or something like that, something close to that, are a result of disagreements in finances or financial hardships or what have you. What actually led me into this work of being a financial advisor, wealth advisor, was observing how little my family talked about money. And it was particular on a sailing trip I was with my uncle and my father, and we were sailing on my uncle's new sailboat. I was 16 years old at the time. We're cruising along, and I'm like, Uncle Ed, like, how did you buy this sailboat? And he told me that he bought it off his stock earnings. And my response was that, you're an airplane pilot. What do you mean you bought it off of your stock earnings? And he went on to explain to me how he took his savings from his income and invested in stocks and had enough success to be able to buy this boat. I immediately turned to my father and I said, Dad, like, why don't we have a boat like this? Are you not investing in stocks? My dad's response was something along the lines of, it's not something that he knows much about. And I'm sitting there between my uncle and my father. I'm like, why don't you guys just talk about it right here, right now? And it led me down this path of awareness and not only observing, how my parents spoke about money or how it affected their relationship, but also between family, immediate family members, and then beyond that, aunts and uncles and others. And yeah, it's very interesting. It's kind of taboo for a lot of people.
I love that. I was literally writing down a reel to do today about when we go through hard times, loss, grief, heartache, we shouldn't look at it as these annoyances, these nuisances at all, like these roadblocks. Look at it with the mindset of, what can I learn from the situation? Not why is this happening? Like, woe is me, but what can I learn from this situation? Yeah. I love that.
I mean, it can be a roadblock, but we can go around roadblocks. So roadblocks don't have to be the end of the road, right? We can navigate around them and jump over them or skirt around the side or what have you. But what's there? What is there a sign on the roadblock sign? Like, what is there to learn from this experience, right?
Right. And also the thing about, I was thinking too about money, that it is a tool, but it's also survival. Like, without money, we're not eating, we're not paying for our rent, we're not buying warm clothes. And so I think when people get to the crux of it is people are in survival mode. They want to hold on to as much as possible, but the more you hold on, it's almost like it escapes you. The tighter you try to hold on to something, the less easier it is to attain.
Yeah, so think of like silly putty, okay? If you hold silly putty in your hand and you squeeze it, it starts to go outwards, right? I would think that, money in general, people hoard it a lot. I've seen that repetitive pattern where as people accumulate, if there is a fear initially, the fear doesn't go away. It just kind of transforms into other fears, right? So, for example, as people are in their earning years and accumulation and saving, they're like, well, I want to retire by 65. Okay, so I need to save this amount of money and do this and that. Okay, and then when I retire, well, I thought I could spend this, but what happens if healthcare costs go up? Or what happens if I need long-term care? Or what happens if Social Security goes away? Or what happens if blah, 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 blah? Like, there's always some what if scenario, and it freezes a lot of people. And I understand why, because if they're retired and watching the news every day and it's fear-based, like literally their minds are just all around fear. So where our attention goes, energy flows, right? And is all on fearful things, we're going to constantly be in that state of fear.
My question was, how do you help people find the balance between financial growth with spiritual and emotional fulfillment?
I think one of the important things to consider is from the perspective of creation. What I speak to in my book is the three pillars of a wealthy life, right? The foundations to a wealthy life. And that's doing something that you enjoy. It doesn't need to be something that you love, that you're ecstatic about and can't wait to do every single day, but just something that you're not having the Sunday scaries every Sunday. If you're doing something that you enjoy and you're balancing between work and play, meaning that you're actually putting energy into what it is that you're creating. Some people have a 40-hour work week. Other people have 70-hour work weeks. Other people have 4-hour work weeks. Whatever it is that you do, like understand where you are in the cycle of your business and what's needed at that moment, making sure that you never like give up like the inner, right? Because if we show up with a cup half full, we're only going to produce a half full product. And then the third and most important, I think oftentimes that people forego is the giving back, right? The giving back to not only like in terms of your time, your energy in that way, but also your resources. So regardless of whether you're contributing $1, $1,000, or $100,000 to organizations that align with your heart purpose, you give, right? You always give, and give from a place of knowing that if you give, you're doing the right thing. You're putting that energy out and it's going to come back to you. Don't do it because it's going to come back to you, but do it knowing that it's going to come back to you. And I think that how we loop this in around bridging the spiritual and the financial is addressing like your relationship with money. How do you relate to it? You know, I have a workbook that I've put together as part of my book that really brings people through a series of questions and exploring their relationship so that they can work through their limiting beliefs and how they, you know, there may be scarcity mindset that they have around money. And I think once all those things happen, once you're doing those three pillars, and then once you do the inner work to work through that it will show, the abundance will show up for you. You know, the money will show up for you.
What the first pillar was enjoy what you're doing. The third was giving back. What was the second?
The second one is balancing between work and play.
Oh, okay, right. I was so off balance up until probably last year because I love to play and get wind in my hair. And that's why I think I have such a good relationship with my children, is because number one, I homeschooled them. I loved being with them every moment. It was so fun to me to geek out on science projects and art stuff and learning Latin. They're like, Mom, can we please go to the beach? Like, we're done. I'm like, no, but what about this participle? Like, let's dive into it. But I just love spontaneous. I love to play so much. I love to do anything and everything, especially outside. I have a ton of energy, but I realized I needed to balance work with my FOMO, right? And so it's only in this past year really where I finally found that balance. But now I'm almost like teetering to the other side where I'm becoming this kind of workaholic, but at the same time, I still make time for myself every day. I get up in the morning, I have my special quiet morning routine where I get grounded and aligned in my faith and listen to meditation music, meditate, pray, journal. And then, you know, after a few hours, I take my laptop down to the pool side and I work there. So I'm getting wind in my hair, I'm getting the sun, vitamin D. So it's kind of balancing, but I've not played pickleball since I moved to Nashville and I am just speechless. Like, I'm like, who is this woman? That I haven't played pickleball. I've golfed once.
Okay. Well,
so
here we are. Yeah, here we are. We have wind in your hair. You're doing something. You've kind of transformed. You've brought the things that you like to do outside in just a different way. And two, understanding. You know, one of the things I mentioned before about understanding where you are in the cycle, right? Because there's cycles of creation. You are in a very creative space right now. You just relaunched the podcast. Like you're putting a lot of energy and time into this creation mode to build a foundation so that you can ultimately, I'd love to understand, you know, your goals of like where you want to be in 3, 5, 7, 10 years. But I would assume at some point down the road that there will be systems in place to be able to support you in each of these different creations. So you're not doing all the things yourself. You have more support around you. In order to have more support around you, you need to make those investments. So whether that comes from income that's generated from these different, you know, projects that you're working on, or if you finance it yourself with investments that you're making out of your own personal savings, and or, borrow money from other people, OPM, I call it, other people's money, to be able to leverage that to then, build those foundations. It's your choice.
I love that you said there's different seasons and the creation mode. You were 100% correct. I'm like full blown creation mode. So I love that. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah, there's the ebb and flow of not only resource, but also creation. So just honoring where you are in that path, like not trying to be like, oh, I haven't been able to play pickleball or golf. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm not balancing. No, like balance isn't 50-50 all the time. Balance is showing up and being like, all right, am I taking care of myself spiritually, mentally, physically, emotionally, and having some play? Yes. Okay. Could it be more? Absolutely. And am I willing to give a little bit of that up now to be able to build, this empire that you're wanting to build? And you'll probably be able to golf and play pickleball 5 times more than what you were previously.
Yay. I
It's
can't
just,
wait.
yeah.
So I have another question. Do you think the traditional financial advising misses the mark when it comes to holistic living?
My experience in being in this industry for the past 20 years is that most advisors are only talking to people about investing their money. I don't know what the number is, but it's high. And I think they're missing the boat, because I believe a true wealth advisor is someone that helps people make smart decisions across all of their financial decision making, right? Like if this person's looking to buy a house, like helping them figure out, whether to take a mortgage or what type of mortgage to take, without it being something that's looking out for the advisor's best interest, but something that's actually looking out for the client's best interest, i.e. being a fiduciary. It's not, and I think those types of advisors are going to be replaced in this coming wave of technology transformation that we're going through, because as investing starts to become easier and more accessible to people to be able to kind of do it on their own, if advisors aren't really going that extra step to help people work through their experience, their life experience, and applying that and bridging the financial with their life experience, then they're going to be fired. Most people that are inheriting their family's wealth are not going to work with their family's wealth advisor. So there's this transition that's going to be happening over this wealth transfer, where obviously the inheritors are going to have the opportunity to take over the money on their own, work with a new advisor. And it's this new advisor that's going to have the ability to potentially transform the way that they experience money and how they redeploy it, right? Do they deploy it based on their values, based on the things that they're really connected to? Or do they follow, the path of their parents?
I love that. This is something I've also kind of been understanding more about what you value. Is people will say they value wealth building, but when you look at how they deploy, which I love that saying, how they deploy their money, it goes towards material items, right? Or upgrading the car. And if they really valued wealth building, they would be saving, they would be investing. And so speaking of investing, what would you say to someone like me who doesn't know anything really about investing? I need investing for dummies. So what should someone like me do if I want to start investing after saving, of course?
Well, so in terms of the timeline, to you, as you were saying, you finished with after saving. At what point do you think you would need to get to save in order to consider investing?
Oh, I love this question. What, maybe 6 months of living expenses, they say? Like Dave Ramsey talks about having an emergency fund, about 3 to 6 months, maybe 9 months ideally.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to state that and make sure that, there was just coherence around that. 6 to 9 months, I think, is great, especially as an entrepreneur. You don't necessarily need to wait until that period of time. You can start investing kind of alongside that, because there is an opportunity to maybe have you look at, well, what happens if I start investing some of the money and it actually grows and I can sell some of those investments and use that for my savings, right? I can take a little bit off the top, right? So it's not, I don't want to create this black and white scenario where you need, okay, once 6 months happens or once 9 months happens, then that's like opens the gates, right? I think it's more or less a weave. right? It just like it's more of an art than a science in many cases. And I think in terms of investing, depending on how deep down the rabbit hole you want to go to learn it on your own, you can. There is investing for dummies. There are plenty of do-it-yourself platforms. And if you're just starting off, there's various ways that you can do it very efficiently with low cost. What I highly recommend is that you speak to someone who serves as an advisor, right? Because there's plenty of like fee-based financial planners that you can hire for a fee, you know, say maybe $5,000 or something, $10,000, where they could create a financial plan for you. Because investing is only one component. Financial well-being goes way beyond just investing money. It goes into looking at, well, how do I protect myself in the event that I'm not able to work? Is there resources there that they're able to provide for me beyond the 6 or 9 months, right? Is there, am I saving appropriately into health insurance and protecting myself there in the event that I have a health event? And there's just so many different aspects of planning.
Okay. My next question is your book, Unconscious Wealth. What inspired
Conscious
it?
wealth.
And conscious wealth.
Conscious
Worried.
wealth.
Unconscious wealth. What inspired it, and why did you write it?
My inspiration came, I was in India are you familiar with the Vipassana?
No.
Okay, so Vipassana in Indian tradition is a 10-day silent meditation retreat. So
You
I was
don't
in
say
India.
anything for 10 days?
You don't say anything for 10 days and you don't look people in the eyes either for the same 10 days.
That's wild. Was that hard for you?
Yes, they have them all around the world. And I believe that there is at least a couple hundred centers around the world. I went to India for mine. That was the only opening that fit into my schedule. It happened to be in the summer, which I didn't realize. It gets really hot in India, particularly in Jaipur, where I was. This is about 125 degrees during the day, no AC. At nighttime, when I went to bed the second night, so this is after 20 hours of meditation, a lot of physical pain from sitting cross-legged for 20 hours on a pillow. And hot. I was lying on a piece of plywood with a mat on it, which was my bed, in like a concrete room, which was my bedroom, staring up at the ceiling, fan on full blast, sweating, just naked. Like, what the heck am I doing here? What is life? I'm in agony. You know, what brought me here? What am I meant to receive from this? And then I just get this I have the clearest message in my body that I've ever received in my life. And it said, write a book. And at that time, the longest thing I had ever written since college, expos writing, was a 2-page investor update. So my response initially was like, okay, I'm talking to the ceiling here at this point. It was like, all right, well, what do I write about? And the response back that I got was to write about what I've been ideating on. It's the idea of a conscious wealth collective, a community of sorts of where all people are kind of vibrating on the same, like on this level of abundance. Like, right, there's a certain energy field that's created with the community, and we're sharing different ideas and flowing and creating and manifesting and all of this stuff. I had just been on an Asana board for the prior 2 years, just throwing against a bunch of ideas in there. And yeah, it was just to, it was write the book, and what you're meant to create will come of that. So that was a very vague response, yet also offered me enough clarity where I knew I needed to just explore with what I knew. And so started the writing journey.
So at any point during that 10-day, how did you call it?
Vipassana.
Vipassana, did you be like, can I get my money back?
Well,
you couldn't even open your mouth.
It.
You couldn't even open your mouth to ask anybody, right? Would they like swat you on the hand if you said anything?
Well, first and foremost, it's interesting you ask about the money piece, because it's actually, there's no money exchange. All of these centers around the world are supported through the nonprofit, and they're all free for anyone to go. So there was no currency exchange for me to attend the retreat. They fed me 3 meals a day for the 10 days. And yeah, everyone that works there is a volunteer, essentially. My experience of rock bottom or failure has really come from a place of knowing that I need to shift something. Okay. this experience that I went through where I built up a successful business. I had financial success. I was doing all the things that I thought I wanted to be doing. And yet I still felt inside my body, like inside my mind, awful, honestly, whether I was depressed or whatnot. I would just say, yeah, rock bottom. And from that place, I still tuned in and listened. I got guidance, advice. I started to share with other people what my experience was. I started to pay attention to offers and opportunities to connect with coaches, go on masterminds, go on retreats, go to Sedona. That changed my life. That was my spiritual awakening. And it came, from my yoga instructor, and I went after a bachelor party. So you never know when or where it's going to come. But if something speaks to you, just follow it. And if you don't feel like your best self, check in on what seems to be off. Am I spending my time in my life doing something that I enjoy? Am I working too much? Am I not? Am I too much in my own space? Am I not connecting enough with community or with my values? Or am I just physically, mentally ill, right? Do I need to work on, improving my diet or getting myself into the gym or what have you? You got to really tune in, and see what is going on in your body or your experience. And the things will start to show up for you, the opportunities, and follow the little nuggets.
Yeah, once you start to really heal yourself, open your mindset to healthier ways of thinking, right? I love that you said that about being off, because that's a good way to put basically why I do what I do, is that so many people come to me because they're off in their life and they can't really put their finger on it. And that's how I was when I was married. Obviously, it was clear the marriage was really difficult. Many things were off, but I just felt like in my spirit that something was off and that I was meant for more. And that I didn't want to accept that, financially, relationally, and all those things. And so what I do, and I think you do too, is we want to help people heal and also have mindset shifts and cultivate a life that they love waking up to. I did a post yesterday about this quote, how purpose is the most powerful alarm clock. And passion's going to wake you up before any alarm clock. And I remember yesterday laying in bed and just thinking, I have to get up already. I don't care if the sun's not up. I need to go. I want to start this project. And I met with one of my clients, and she said she dreads waking up. And I remember that was the same for me. And so I'm wondering for you, if that was ever similar to you, where you just kind of dreaded waking up, you dreaded your life. And so many people submit to that sort of living. And I think you and I are on the same page, where we want to help people shake them up, wake them up, and let them know you don't have to live like this anymore. If something's off, then do something about it.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. There's also, women and men have quite often different experiences. For me, it is understanding who I'm speaking to, asking the right questions, and determining if they're open to receive in the way that I feel like I have a full capability to. So the things that I focus my time and attention on are elevating human consciousness, protecting our planet through ocean conservation, and providing an abundance of clean drinking water to everyone in the world. So where I direct my energy is to those three buckets. If someone else is like, hey, do you want to do this? And it doesn't really align there, I'm just like, it's a no. That power of no, and declaring no, it sounds great. I know it's good for humanity, but it's not really connected to what I'm here to do. Mm-hmm. Right. So when you think about that experience of waking up and dreading it, I mean, I personally have been sleeping a ton lately, 8 to 10 hours at least a night. And instead of being why am I sleeping so much? Oh my, yeah. So if your experience is one in which you're having the weight of the world is on you, and why am I even here? Think about if you're not working on the things that you enjoy to be working on, what shifts can be made in your life to align you more with what your purpose is here for.
So true. Okay. Let's dive more back into finances. What's the biggest myth about money and fulfillment you wish people would drop
I think the biggest myth about money is that it's hard to make money.
because it's not.
It's not. No.
So I love that.
There's infinite ways.
Okay,
And
and
the
then
most,
what's the myth about money and fulfillment you wish people would let go of?
I think with fulfillment is that when people look for something else, like fulfillment outside of themselves, like if they look for fulfillment in like the material, I think that because having a level of success in the material, and seeing a lot of people go through material success and building significant amounts of wealth over the years, I know that money doesn't make you happy.
Yeah, it's just a tool, right?
It can be
Have experiences.
yeah,
And
it's a tool to have experiences. Yeah, experiences can make you happy, right? So if people will be like, well, yeah, if boats make you happy, if you like being on a boat and you need money to buy a boat, then you need money to buy your happiness. Well, it's a yes and.
Elaborate on that, please.
The yes and is that if we believe that in order to have fulfillment or happiness in our life, that we need money to be able to do it, you're missing the boat on our existence. We're here to understand like the interconnectedness of all things and be here to support one another and lift each other up. That is my belief where people get the most fulfillment. And there's been studies done that show when people like donate their time or donate money or support causes that they really like are connected with their heart, it's when they're most excited. And when people are most excited, they're most happy, they're feeling most fulfilled.
That is so true. So I became a life coach about 6 years ago, and then kind of put that on hold as a private flight attendant, which was a great opportunity, great experience. It got me to the mainland, or what you guys call it, East Coast, or like the States, I guess. And I see now how all this journey that I have been on has eventually ultimately brought me to where I am today. And in the moment, it didn't all seem to make sense to me, but now I can be here in Nashville and clearly see why everything has happened, and where I am today is the most fulfilled I've ever been. And like what you just said, when you're giving to people of your gifts and your talents, your resources, maybe you don't have a lot of money, but you have time, you have energy, you have the knowledge of how to impart change in people's lives. And so true that the more you give, the more that you receive in many different ways. And I love what I do. I love causing impact and change in people's lives and seeing them have these epiphanies that they don't have to live like that. They don't have to stay stuck. They don't have to be broken. And that is just lights me up. And I just wanted to agree what you said. I love that quote that said, what lights you up is your passion, but what lights others up is your purpose. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. And I would say that it sounds like you're giving from a place of care without expecting anything in return, which I think is the most ideal place to be. There's a lot of, I've seen videos recently around manifestation and creating wealth abundance and all these gurus and experts that are, just help people become millionaires, right? And one of the things I've heard people speaking about is that if you give, say 10% of your wealth, you'll get 20 back. And they frame it in a way that like, do it because you're going to get back 20%. I think it's a huge mistake because energetically, you then start to attach the expectation of getting something back. If you do it from a place of your heart, where you can disconnect from like, this is something I need, whereas this is something that I want to give, and that by giving, it feels good for me to be able to give. And there's this outer knowing somewhere in the awareness field, right? It doesn't need to be like the focus, but it can be in the awareness field. Yes, by me giving in this way and showing up in this way that, yeah, my field is going to be expanding and elevating, and I'm going to attract more beyond what I ever knew was possible. But like, not to like, okay, hey, I gotta do the 10% this month so that, I get to 20 back because I gotta make this amount of money before the end of the year. No. Bad.
That is so true. I love that you say that, because as a Christian, we grow up believing or knowing out of habit that we give 10% of our income every month to the church that we go to. Not a lot of Christians don't do that. For me, I didn't do that for years. A part of it was I wanted to hold on to every last bit that I had. But since then, I know that God has changed my mindset about that. And he's told me the same thing, like give out of a heart of cheerfulness because he is a God of abundance. And so now when I tithe, it's because there's nothing attached to it. I just want to give. Number one, I love the church that I go to. I want to support them because they support me, right? In my healing journey, helping me grow spiritually. And so my full mindset towards tithing has changed dramatically. And now I give out of a heart of cheerfulness and gratitude because I'm so thankful for everything that I have. But I didn't always think that way. I was fearful and I wouldn't give or tithe.
Beautiful.
Oh, since we're talking about money, really quick, I wanted to touch on something you said earlier. A lot of the dates that I went on when I was in Florida for a couple months, I was dumbfounded at how many men would lead with their assets. And they would talk about their yachts and their lake houses and their watches. It was disgusting. I've never seen a culture like that before. So no offense, Matt. My eyes were open to a whole nother world. And so just like side note for men who are listening to this and who are dating, never ever talk about your assets for two reasons. A high value woman is not going to care. And number two, you're going to attract the wrong type of people, right? Would you agree? Do you want to touch on that, Chris?
I'm happy to. And as a fellow Florida man,
I didn't know that.
Man, listen, I'm not going to take offense to it because and I'm also going to agree with you that in Florida in general, there is this, there's a lot of wealth. It's one of the biggest yacht capitals of the world. The yacht space is a space that I spend a lot of time in particular. But I think when people lead with their assets or their wealth or what have you, it exposes a feeling of not being enough inside in some way, shape, or form. They feel like they need to flaunt the external success for you to be able to want them or attract you to them. That they haven't, that themselves are not enough for you to be able to or desire to continue to meet with them. So whether it's that they don't think that they're good looking enough, or they don't think that they're fun enough, or they don't think that they're skinny enough, or whatever it is, there's some level of like self-doubt that is creating their experience of them feeling like they need to speak to their other successes, something that they are excited to share about, right? Not surprised. And yeah, I think it's a terrible idea to lead with your money. And, it depends. If you met them on OnlyFans, then yeah, talk about your money. But if you met them, at a cocktail party or, at the gym or on the beach or, at the yoga studio, don't talk about your money. Stop it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you end up on a date with anyone like me, who really, I consider myself high value because I value myself. I know what my values are and I don't compromise my standards. Then the moment you start talking about your wealth, you will not get that second date. So be very careful, men who are listening. I think maybe even and women as well, that you are very careful about the things that you talk to and you want them to be attracted to you for your character and your mindset and that brain and that part of yours, than not the things that you have, which can be taken away tomorrow.
Yeah. It's a thing.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of women that they look for being provided for. They consider themselves high value, maybe in different ways that you do, but they consider themselves high value and they go around looking for the money. Their experience is one in which, if a guy's a bartender, that they might not go out with him because he probably doesn't have enough money. Little do you know that that bartender could have sold his company for $50 million a couple of years ago and decided that he just wanted to serve drinks at a bar to have fun and meet people, right?
Well, okay. Yeah, I see the point. Really quick, one point about high value is, I don't know if you hear that I talk about high value women. Everyone has value, but not everybody lives like they have value, right? People who don't value themselves, they're stuck in addiction. They're stuck in toxic relationships. They think they don't deserve anything good. Probably are not living their purpose. They don't even know what their purpose is. So there's two types of people where they really live like they have value. Like you, for example, you seem like a person that you know your value. So you invest in yourself. And the women, from my perspective, a woman who really values herself is not just going to go after money. They're going to go be attracted to a man who is ambitious and motivated, and he's financially savvy, and he's a wealth builder. He's good with his money. He gives. That's totally different than just being some rich man. Does that make sense?
100% totally makes sense.
All right, so that wraps up my interview with Christopher Mackin prematurely because something happened with the Wi-Fi again, unfortunately. But if you would like to reach out to Christopher, all the information will be in the show notes. And until next week, go get some freaking wind in your hair. And thank you so much for joining us.